To understand cellulite, let's first look at what we do know. What we do know is that cellulite tends to show up on the thighs, hips, buttocks, and belly. And we'll talk about why soon. It seems to be more common in women, and we'll definitely cover that in this video. And it appears that just about every cellulite cream or product that says it's going to help you get rid of your cellulite has basically zero effect. So to understand why, let's dig into the structure of the skin just a little bit to better understand what's going on. And here we see the way that it should look. And this is an example of what smooth skin would look like. And when we look at cellulite, when we look at the lumpy, dimpling type effect, this would be just one single dimple in cellulite. And of course, we know in an area like a thigh, we would see many dimples. So what's going on is that here we have this outer layer of skin and then the dermis, which is the underlayer, and then we have this layer of fat, and in between this skin and this fascia, which is basically connective tissue that's all connected to muscle down here, in between that we have a layer of fat, and this connective tissue here is like a fibrous cord. So it's kind of made out of connective tissue, and it just kind of holds everything together here. So when we see fat cells expanding, we see that it would push up on this skin here, and in the location where the fibrous cord was connecting the skin down to these lower levels, we see that it's holding it down. So what we're looking at with cellulite is a combination of a few different issues, or maybe just one or the other for some people. But if the skin is not as strong or as thick, then it will be pushed up and become lumpy much easier than someone that had stronger or thicker skin. And it appears that males have stronger and thicker skin than females, and we don't really know why, but I kind of like to theorize that females have a lot more important issues going on with reproductive organs, and maybe a lot of the resources that would go towards strengthening or repairing skin tissue goes towards more important things that can help a woman be able to reproduce. So for one reason or another, it just appears that women have thinner skin in general, and then when we look at the trouble areas like the thighs and the hips, it appears that those specific areas, the skin may even be a little more thin or weak in general, and we're speaking generally here. For some individuals, men and women, the skin could be weaker or thinner because the body may not be getting enough resources that it needs, whether the person is not eating foods that are nutrient rich, or maybe they can't digest them properly and pull the nutrients out of that food. So the body could actually be mining itself and pulling nutrients out of tissues and skin to use for other priority areas if the person is not receiving enough resources through the food that they're eating. So there's plenty of reasons for this skin to be thinner or weaker, and there are also plenty of reasons for why these fat cells could expand. So let's look at what could happen here. And we know body fat causes these fat cells to expand. That's just kind of how it works. So if there's situations that are causing your body to store more fat, we know that that's going to cause that expansion. Toxicity can also cause fat cells to expand because there's plenty of types of toxicity that the body can store in fat cells to kind of keep the body safe. So if the body is a little overwhelmed in removing toxins, and maybe some of the exit pathways are not functioning properly, the body will sometimes store some of these toxins in fat cells just to kind of make them inert to where they can't cause trouble. But that toxicity can cause these fat cells to expand, which creates the dimpling in the skin. And finally, believe it or not, calcium can cause problems in this area. There's a theory that I buy into this theory because I study a lot about how calcium works in the body, and if we have excess calcium in the bloodstream, the body tries to get rid of that, and maybe they'll try and pee that out, but the body can also store calcium in fat cells. And One thing that would cause an excess of calcium in the blood is if too much calcium is being pulled out of the tissues. And things like high levels of vitamin D can do that. Excessive carbohydrate or sugar intake can pull calcium out of the tissues, and because the calcium wants to follow that sugar. And then once the sugars are processed in the bloodstream, the calcium gets kind of dropped, and it can form deposits in joints and cause all kinds of other trouble. So a lot of times if there's excess calcium in the bloodstream, the body will try and pull some of that out, and it can get stored in fat cells. And that may be why you see some people that deal with cellulite issues, even though they're really not overweight. They may not have excessive body fat that's pushing on this to make this skin bulge up, but the fat cells could be storing something else that's causing trouble, and it seems that it's common that calcium is one of those issues. So there's ways to look at your physiology to see if you may be dealing with an issue like that. But these are the three main issues that would cause this type of expansion. And it's this expansion that's pushing up on this skin. So for each person, what is the cause of their cellulite? Is it because the fat cells are expanding too much? Is it because the skin is too thin and weak, so it's dimpling up? It's hard to say, but if you can look at your physiology, you can get an idea of what may be the culprit. And usually working on both of these things can help improve the situation. So let's look deeper into the things that could help reduce your cellulite if you're dealing with a cellulite issue. And the first one is find ways to decrease the body's need to store whatever it's storing in here, whether that be from fat accumulation or if it's a high calcium type issue or a toxicity issue. So the first step is to find ways to decrease that need to store, to first stop what's causing the problem before you can correct it. The next big step is to improve digestion. A lot of people are not digesting their food as well as they think they are. They think all the common digestive symptoms like bloating and burping and passing gas and constipation and diarrhea, they think all these things are just common and that's just something that they got stuck with. But the reality is that if you have digestive symptoms, your digestion is probably not working optimally, which means that you can't pull the nutrients out of the food that you're eating and break proteins down into amino acids that can be used to rebuild these tissues, to strengthen these connective tissues. All those amino acids and things that are found in collagen are all important to improve your skin's structure and its tenacity and its strength and its thickness. All those are crucial. So improving digestion can not only help with fat loss for many reasons, but it can help you pull the nutrients that you need to make this structure stronger so that even if you do have some stored stuff in here, it'll be harder to push up on this and the skin will stay smoother. The next thing to work on is to increase collagen intake. In our food supply today, we don't get in as much collagen as we used to back when Grandma took the carcass of whatever we were eating and put it in a soup and made a soup out of it and pulled all those nutrients out of the bones. We just don't do that anymore. So increasing collagen intake can be very important to help strengthen all this connective tissue and the skin itself. And finally, supplementing vitamin C can be a big deal. Humans, primates, and guinea pigs are the only mammals that don't produce their own vitamin C, so we have to get it from our food. And when you supplement vitamin C, you can't supplement like ascorbic acid or something that ester C or something that's just a fraction of the whole C molecule. You have to supplement some type of whole form of C like acerola berry powder or something, to where the body uses vitamin C in pretty much every repairing and rebuilding process in the body. So to be able to repair all this skin and connective tissue is a big deal, because a lot of times this dimpling comes from not only the skin being weak and easily pushed up on, but this connective tissue, these bands becoming weak. So instead of spanning a large area of skin like we see here, they kind of become stretchy and you're just kind of pulling on just one little area, which causes that dimple instead of keeping everything wide and smooth like we see here. So vitamin C can be crucial for a situation like that. Collagen contains all of the structural proteins that are used to rebuild connective tissue. So it's just a big deal to see if we can get some of that in the system. So when we're looking to improve, what steps we can take to decrease the need to store fat or other junk in fat. We have a free podcast, Kick It Naturally, and we have a 2-part episode on fat loss plateau. So that's a great place to start. Just listen to that episode and see if there's things that you might be doing or wrong or things that you might need to improve to help your body let go of stored fat, to help that start to come back down again. The next thing, when improving digestion, we have a free 4-week digestion course at kickitandthenuts.com. So you can go there and see what that's all about. And that'll walk you through steps that can help you learn how to figure out what parts of digestion may not be working well for you and what steps you can take to fix those so that you can really pull the nutrients out of the food that you're eating. And you may also need to take some steps to start eating some more nutrient-dense food instead of kind of like the junk we find in a vending machine. To increase collagen intake, the best thing to do is to learn how to make homemade bone broth. If you have a crock pot or something, it's really easy to make bone broth, and then you can just sip it or use it in soup, and you start to get all of those nutrients in that we just don't get anymore. Nutrients that are very important for our body to be able to rebuild tissues and help connective tissue be stronger. So that can be a big deal. And if you don't have time to make bone broth, you can also use collagen supplements. And we'll put some links down below this video for supplements that we use, and that may help you simplify your life if you don't have time to make bone broth. But bone broth is really an excellent source for all these nutrients. And finally, when you're supplementing vitamin C, you just have to find a good vitamin C. And we'll put a few choices down below of options that you can find, like acerola cherry powder is available in most locations. If you like capsules, we have one called BioC that's available on naturalreference.com, and I think Garden of Life has one called Living C. You can get it at most Whole Foods. So there's plenty of options out there. We actually even have our own protein supplement that we made that happens to have all these things in it. It has collagen in it, an acerola cherry vitamin C powder that's a whole food powder, and it even has some beet green things that can help 1/2 of digestion. So that can be an easy tool. If someone doesn't have time to be doing a lot of things, they can just do one thing, and that can kind of speed things up for the things. But these are the main steps to take, and you can see that it's not just a genetic thing. It's not just, oh, I'm stuck with cellulite. There's actually reasons that cellulite is showing up, and there's steps that you can take to improve them. Now, if you want to learn more about this and you're watching this video at another location, you can go to kickitandthenuts.com/cellulite to hear our free podcast episode about cellulite, see other information that we wrote down, as well as links to all of the resources.